We're going to drop time for the panel tonight because, well, there's just so much news around. There's been a huge development today in the Georgia prosecution of former President Donald Trump. His one-time lawyer, Sidney Powell, who was present in the Oval Office in the days after the 2020 election, has pleaded guilty to 6 charges of interference in the 2020 presidential election, a day before her trial was set to start. If you recall, Powell was one of the principal voices claiming that voting machines had been rigged to reverse the results. As part of the deal, she'll be required to testify at future trials and co-defendants, I should say, and then write an apology letter to the state's voters. Mr. Trump has denied any wrongdoing and will stand trial in Georgia with 17 others who are still pleading not guilty. Let's bring in the former federal prosecutor, Joe Moreno. Joe, good to see you. Why? Why has she done this on the eve of jury selection?
Well, Christian, I think she read the writing on the wall and said, I'm going to get out with the best deal I can before going down with the ship. I mean, it's significant when anyone pleads guilty in terms of a multi-defendant case and agrees to testify against others. When it's a lawyer, it's really significant because you have to figure that person was privy to some pretty inside information. And so it's bad for Donald Trump. The only question is how bad.
Well, yeah, because she was there in the Oval Office in those immediate weeks afterwards, and she knew the plan. Could she be, I mean, what standard cooperation, what does that mean? Does she have to give everything up that she knows in every case in which he features?
Well, it depends on the specifics of what she agreed to. And it's interesting, being a lawyer adds an extra level of complexity to it because most of the time when a lawyer deals with his or her client, the communications are protected, right? So if it's before someone does something, you can explain to them the law and what they can and can't do to stay out of trouble. And if it's after they've done something, you can help them with their defense and help them negotiate a settlement. What you can't do is you can't be part of planning or executing a crime. And so to the extent that Sidney Powell did that, that's fair game. And she cannot claim that's privileged or protected. And that's all admissible in court. And not just in this case, but possibly whatever she knows in the other criminal cases Donald Trump is facing.
Yeah. Annika, I remember she used to have carpe diem, didn't she, on her lapel, seize the day. And today she seized the deal, which is an element of news I would not have expected, especially from her.
Well, after she had the settlement with the Dominion, company that made the voting machines, and she was even then saying that she was being singled out. It's interesting that she would take a deal kind of on the early side. So maybe that's what her lawyers were advising.
Yeah, I would think, Matthew, that if she knows a thing or two about Donald Trump, she certainly knows a thing or two about Rudy Giuliani, who's in all sorts of trouble at the moment because she was standing on the stage with him during those weeks.
I'm still trying to get over the pun, Christian, but no, you're right. You're right. And I did wonder when these indictments came rolling in, the extent to which it might encourage people to turn on Trump in self-interest to try and plea bargain their way out of a criminal sentence. But the psychology of this is tremendously interesting. Trump has made the point numerous occasions that the worst it gets for him in terms of his appearance before the law, there have been previous convictions, the higher he moves in the polling.
Yeah.
Now, this is an extraordinary thing for a nation constructed fundamentally on the rule of law. The rule of law has been tremendously robust in America almost since the founding of the Republic. You could say it's one of its great strengths. And yet a critical mass of this electorate, a mature Western electorate is willing to give the benefit of the doubt to somebody even when he is found guilty via due process. I don't understand quite why this is happening. It's complicated.
I do. It shows the view the country has of Washington and the so-called swamp that Donald Trump has made so much out of. Last few seconds to you, Joe. If you were representing one of the other 17, what would you be saying to your client tonight now that Sydney's folded?
Be saying, I wonder if we should be the next ones to plead guilty and cut our losses. I mean, usually the sooner you get in, the better deal you get. If you make prosecutors work for it, they're much less inclined to be easy on you. So I would be saying to my client, let's really think about if we want to fight this or if we want to go in and get the best deal we can.
Interesting. We will follow it over the coming weeks to see what comes of the trial. Joe Moreno, thank you very much for that. Matthew, Annika, lovely to have your company this evening. Thank you for being along for the ride. We will be back same time tomorrow. Good night.